everyone. Today we speak about typical system interface and system gap that are useful or required when we implement a differentiation center. In particular, today we explain the interrelation between this instrument and the differentiation approach. We start with the taxonomy and the property right theory. The property right theory provides an overview of the benefit addressed by the IP portfolio. But the tool required for the portfolio analysis is the taxonomy. Taxonomy gives the possibility to map proprietary and third-party IP with product features and customer benefits. In the case study, we now look at the customer benefit in concrete. The smart tooth promises a great contribution to patients' perspective of leading a near normal life. It is extremely important for diabetes because it measures the carbohydrate intake instead of only estimating it. Doing this, they don't have anymore the necessity to measure glucose and manually inject insulin. So, the measurement of the actual food intake save valuable time for patients and also allow them to adjust the insulin release accordingly to the intake of food.
So, of course, in order to identify the exclusivity positions we may have in terms of customer benefits, it's clearly important to do monitoring of the competitive environment. And this has to be a continuous process of product review, product monitoring, market monitoring, and also patents monitoring. And we have to map patents of the products to be more efficient. And this is, of course, not only an IP guy's job. We have to have people, technical people, engineers working on that, collaborating with us to be the more efficient as efficient as possible on this work. How can it look like? How can the results look like? It can be this kind of metrics in which in the rows we will have the customer benefits. So for the smart tooth, for instance, you will have all the benefits they have when they start using and they implement, they set up the system, and also all the customer benefits that you have while using on a day-by-day basis, how it is a better solution or what are the benefits of this kind of systems. And then in the columns we will map for competitors' products if those benefits are implemented or not in the products. And through this mapping we'll be able to determine if there are available exclusivity positions that we will have to cover through our IP strategy. So from an institutional economics point of view, why is this improving our efficiency? First, we will generate information. And then this information that will be used in portfolio assessment, we can consider, according to agency theory, that we will reduce the hidden information. And by doing that, we will reduce the information asymmetry, so we'll get more efficiency. And then, by doing that continuously, we will also be able to detect, with higher probability to detect infringement of our IP. So in terms of property rights theory, it means that we will have a better vision of how we can maybe generate revenues or enforce this property. So this is also a way, according to the property rights theory, to improve our efficiency. And then we'll move to the portfolio management view.
Okay. Next comes the organization of the portfolio management. This is very important. Why? Because IP is the most important resource of the company, and protecting the smart tooth features which create the customer benefits is the key for the company's success. You can see the graphic here. What does it show? It shows that the more relevant the customer feature, the more important is the patent as internal resource, which means that we should focus here when we organize our portfolio management. What is important in the organization of the portfolio management? What does it mean? It means development of a common understanding of the IP-related benefits and effects among the different business functions, such as marketing, R&D, product management, and IP. It means that all business functions must understand the customer benefits and that the IP portfolio aims to make the customer benefit exclusive. The second point, portfolio analysis based on the criteria describing the objectives of the IP strategy. It means that the IP portfolio must align with the business model and customer benefit as an objective of the IP strategy. And third, development of documentation by means of measurable and easy to understand performance indicators. It means that the corresponding IP is mapped with exclusivity goals, which are important for the exclusivity of the customer benefit, and continuous controlling of the indicators and documentation permits targeted optimization of the IP portfolio and cost controlling. And the benefits of this comprehensive portfolio management from perspective of the agency theory, the benefits are integration of the various stakeholders, which means marketing, R&D, product management, and IP in the company, which leads to reduction of the information asymmetry, which means that all relevant participants know the goals and the objectives. And second, using objectifying KPI prevents opportunistic behavior in portfolio management. Everybody follows the same goal and the same objectives.
So, one further instrument in the toolbox of a Differentiation Center is synthetic inventing. Well, synthetic inventing, what is it and what is the relation to property rights theory and to transaction costs? Well, synthetic inventing is basically a procedure of inventing that is not focused on the technology first. But first and foremost, synthetic inventing looks at the business model and to try to look where's the future desired position of the company in the market, and this is really the focus where synthetic inventing starts. So one looks how to get there or how to keep this position in the market and what are the technical elements that make this happen. And around those technical technological elements we try to generate basically IP to really make those elements exclusive. So synthetic inventing does not just focus on technology but also includes the market side as basically the starting point, and then technology comes into play when it really is beneficial to make this market position to make this economic goal happen. Of course, synthetic inventing doesn't come for free, but it costs also some resources in terms of employees which we have to devote to this task, in terms of time. When our employees do synthetic inventing, they cannot do other things. So this is, of course, constitutes costs, constitute an investment. What does it have to do with property rights theory and transaction costs? Well, property rights are generated with a tool of synthetic inventing at a very early stage of the process. So there might not be even R&D activities going on there, but really we try to, if we are successful, we are generating IP and property rights for those elements of our business model which deliver customer benefits and which we can then use for having economic benefits also for our company. So we are really at the starting point where we can really have exclusivity in the market, where we have unique selling propositions, and those things we can create a fence around. So these property rights can be generated at an early stage, and we can generate property rights which are really appropriate for our business model. And yeah, I said it already, the economic benefits from this business model can be made exclusive. But with respect to transaction costs, I referred already to the investment which we have to do, but this initial investment also has to pay off, and it will pay off, for example, in terms of transaction costs. So we do not just generate exclusively revenues, but we also avoid external costs in the future, external transaction costs, as for example buying licenses, buying FTO if you like. This is then a means to avoid future transaction costs by our first initial investment. So then I hand over to Peter.
I'm going to speak about roadmap. Road mapping is another instrument that is very useful in a differentiation approach. Why? Because the road mapping, technology road mapping, is a process that allows us to determine the actions, steps, and resources that we need for developing our technology, in this case the smart tooth device, from vision to reality, and always take it into account that the IP strategy must fit in this development. So we can see that there are some links of the IP management in the roadmap. For example, it is very important to include the IP in the very early stage of the process, of the roadmap process, even if there is no inventive intention of the product. But for example, for analyzing possible collaborators in the developing of the technology, doing FTO analysis. There is also it is also very important to provide the competencies, the required competencies to the roadmap team. This team must know about the market, who is competing, which alternatives does the patient have, or they also need to understand the technology that is involved in our device that we are developing, and also about IP, because we are willing to create an exclusivity. And of course, it's very important to define claims for future market positions as early as possible, and protecting these positions by means of IP in order to create this exclusivity. When we analyze the roadmap, the technology road mapping from an institutional economics perspective, especially considering the property rights theory, creating IP in early stage of the roadmap process allows us to minimize future transaction costs, because property rights along the development path are established. This enables an efficient development approach and efficient market positioning of our product. And of course, the very early creation of IP also helps minimizing negative external effects for the company from potential knowledge spillover during the R&D process.
Let me address another critical interface in the company, and that is to say the employee invention remuneration. Just to explain once more, if you remind, within the 360 degrees IP strategy, we have in the top, in the bottom left, these core competencies that are all these IP rights, which are dedicated to technologies which are already available, which we would like to further protect, and even for technologies which are ongoing. And we have another part of this IP strategy, 360 degrees IP strategy, dedicated to synthetic inventing, as addressed just before by Björn. The issue actually with this part of the IP is that we are not sure that this technology will be implemented later on the market, and that represents, I would say, questionable point from remuneration for the employee. And I would like to go deeper into this critical interface, employee invention remuneration, thanks to the institutional economics, from an institutional economics perspective. Let's address the agency theory. We have different systems in the world which are addressing this question of inventor remuneration. One of the most, I would say, efficient system is in Germany. It's a system which is working well, which has been implemented right after the Second World War II, and which enable and still enable to apply for many qualitative patents against our remuneration of the inventors. Nevertheless, for this synthetic inventing, we are not sure that it's going into the market. So why the inventor should put efforts in that? Will they get money for that? Shall we put targets for these people in order to apply for much more patents? And what will happen with the quality of these patents? Does it make sense? No, we need actually to think about a system, very efficient system, in order to remunerate these inventors in the right way. Let me make some proposal. You know the system of the lump sum. The patent is not yet, I would say, implemented in theory, but it's already filed. So the inventors they get a lump sum. This is a very, very important point for the inventor to motivate them to apply to draft a patent and give an invention disclosure form. Another idea is actually what about incentives for breakthrough patents according to the inventive level? What about incentives for patent infringement? If inventors are able to detect patents which are used by competitors, they will get additional incentive. And I would say one very important point is actually to speak about inventor remuneration system. If you don't speak about it in the company, or do you want that the inventor are motivated through this system? Yes. Another very important point is from a transaction cost perspective. Actually, all these employees, they cost money. But on the other side, when they apply for such patent, even if it's in the future, and we are not sure if it will be implemented in theory, there are some external effects and quite positive external effects. Among them, you will have decrease of licensing costs if you need to get a license from your competitors. You have as well the possibility to get incomes for licensing out. Litigation costs as well. You are able to decrease these litigation costs thanks to these patents, these IP rights, which may be used in the future. You are as well decreasing the around costs because you have already applied for technologies, and your competitors will have additional costs to develop a new technology. And actually, it sets the entry barriers for your competitors. That means you are able to enforce premium prices, and it is very important for this film. So I would just summarize all what is being said by the team. So in any invention process, it's very important to take into account these 6 critical interfaces as we addressed them just before.